All right. And welcome back to the Prometheus Afterthoughts podcast, the podcast where we talk to the most recent boot from Prometheus Season of the Elders. And that is Ben. Ben, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I've had a good day. I think it's funny to watch the episodes back and see me in my old dorm setup, and now I'm in my own house. Like you can track my life upgrades moment by moment. No, it's been good. It's been a good bit.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So let's just dive right into it. So obviously this is your time to talk about whatever you want, how you've been represented in the edit and in the podcast, your perception and the people's perception of you. So you're free to talk about whatever you wish.
Okay. I have been like collecting a good couple thoughts, so I'll bounce a bunch off of you. I think I performed about as well as I expected and about as well as I usually do. I tend to come in and make a generally positive impression first and foremost, and especially in early rounds, if I'm like not failing at challenges and I'm like doing okay socially, I can kind of establish myself as like we have no reason to vote him out. Like he's on everybody's side. But I'm so fucking loud in life and in stuff like this that the second merge hits and people start thinking about threats or who to vote out, I'm a sneaky bitch a lot of the time. Like there's not much reason to keep me in games when I'm pretty openly trying to wind and weave my way through every vote. I think the edit did a pretty good job of showing kind of what got me this season. I think a lot of the stuff that like took me down was, well, the kind of waiting room. What's the term for the rooms that you kind of jump in and out of? The room limits.
The room limits, yeah.
And like the limited spaces to talk. I really struggled with that. I've never played any of the mini settings where I dealt with that. I'd like watched stuff loosely, so I kind of knew how it worked. But I did not like not being able to talk with people one-on-one. And especially in that merge round in this most recent episode, you kind of have to choose, am I going to talk to the people right in front of me, or am I going to stare at my phone and text the whole time? And that I think I got a little too into trying to text everybody and make it work via the messenger this time. I think if I had like been able to get face to face with the people I wanted to be face to face with, maybe I would have had more success talking with them. I think the edit did a kind of good job at showing. I wish I'd thought of this Ben, Jenny, Bloody, Antonio alliance like one round earlier, or I wish I had thought more about the fact that CJ had voted Bloody with us and that we had CJ with us. I was so focused on my own decision that I had voted Bloody that I totally didn't think about the fact that I shouldn't take heat for this. Like, why am I running around kind of announcing that I flipped? Instead, I should have probably talked to CJ, gotten in a room with CJ and maybe some of my people and like solidified CJ with us. I don't know. There are definitely quibbles. I also think that though, Bloody not taking me up on this grouping of me, her, Jenny, and Antonio really threw me off. Even now, I don't think she has much reason to say no to that and to just vote just vote. I guess it would have had to be me or Jenny. I don't know. I have a lot of different thoughts about it. I think if Jocelyn loses immunity, maybe that pitch goes off better because then we have somebody other than me and Jenny to vote. I don't know. Do you have thoughts, Casey?
Well, yeah. So I have a couple of things. One, I very briefly said it before we actually started recording, but like, I think, a number of your points were actually pretty solid. It's very interesting, in any game, you always have big threats. And oftentimes I feel like those big threats never do usually team up together. And we didn't have that. And I think your points were pretty valid, especially for someone like Bloody, who is such a massive target. And we had in this episode, Aaron even says, okay, I think we need to get one of the OG Aaron out and then we go for Bloody. So even someone who most people in the game perceive as Bloody's number one ally is even talking about voting her out. So for me, it does make, sense for you two to team up. But something that I thought was, well, there's two things. One, something I thought was interesting was, you just mentioned Jocelyn. Had Jocelyn not won immunity, there was that possibility. But we do very clearly see in this episode, Jocelyn's already, people want to pick up Jocelyn. And in addition to that, Jocelyn's like, Ben, you've never clued me in on anything. So
Jocelyn's not happy with me. That was probably honestly the biggest thing that shocked me about this episode. And I watched it, I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I didn't talk with Jocelyn at all. Jocelyn was one of those people who was one of the elders, and we never had to strategize with Jocelyn on our tribe, and she seemed perfectly happy not strategizing with us. So when it hit merge, I just was kind of like, well, fuck it, like I'll tell Jocelyn what to do, and when Jocelyn has me and Jenny telling her what to do, like she won't be thinking of much else. But that was definitely a huge blind spot on me. That's like me totally underestimating Jocelyn and not giving her like the appropriate kind of time allowance. But I agree. I have thoughts on Bloody as well at this point in the game. I think after last tribal with Louise calling her out and trying to make a vote, I will say I think me trying to do the same was a pretty direct losing move. I think Bloody last episode became almost this over the radar player. Like, think of the equivalent of like a really physical threat on Survivor. Like when they're doing so well, but don't have to try very hard seemingly, or maybe they're doing so well, they're so secure that they're not really doing anything, then there becomes not really much of a reason to vote them out. Especially, I think a missed kind of perception on my part was, like Antonio and the rest of, is it Aaron? Not my tribe, was Aaron?
Aaron was your tribe. Guyon was the other.
Guyon. Antonio and the rest of Guyon have no reason to vote Bloody out. They have all this reason to use her as the figurehead of the tribe and then just keep chopping us down one by one. And then when it's final five or whatever, they can vote her out, no problem. I think my final pitch, even though like all my points I was really happy with, I think choosing to try and leverage that against Bloody of all people was a losing move by me, because nobody else had a reason to vote Bloody out at that point, especially when I was like, if I had survived there, I would have just been Bloody. Like they would have been, there's no reason to make waves and vote Bloody when you can get out probably like an equivalent figure in me without gaining heat and with like just maintaining the status quo. There wasn't really much reason for people to shake up the game.
Yeah. Did it ever honestly cross your mind to potentially throw Jenny under the bus?
No. I will say I'm like kind of erratic in a lot of these games, but I do like to have people I can rely on. And Jenny especially like did seem to be somebody who was loyal to me and was wanting to work with me. And obviously she was like kind of snaky in a lot of other aspects we see. But at least with me, we only had reason to support each other. If we want to put it in fun terms, like I was more than happy to drag Jenny down with me. I could have thrown her under the bus, but then I think it would have just left me. I was more than happy to let Jenny like be the anchor and use her to pull her down with me, because that seemingly didn't have much of a downside to my game if she was going to let me use her.
Mm-hmm. Now, another thing, too, that we thought of, the Elder system comes with a lot of pros and cons. And, I'm fairly certain we're keeping it for our next season, but we're definitely going to have to make tweaks. But something that we thought was, do you think you becoming the Elder actually hurt your game, aside from the fact that it did assure you that you were immune at least one more round? Because now you have a situation where your team all decided to vote you, and the votes were announced publicly at that challenge. Everyone voted for you, and then you voted for Louise.
I'm okay. I'm going to say no. I don't think so at all. I think, maybe it had an impact on Guyon's perception of me. Maybe if that like public announcement, like you said, hadn't happened, then it would have been easier for me to like play another round or two without drawing quite as much heat. But I think I had been real loud in the challenge arenas. I think I had drawn a lot of attention onto me anyways. And I think like becoming the elder, I think that just solidified Jocelyn a little further with us. And obviously, like I kind of ended up throwing that out unintentionally. But I do think like I don't know. I don't think it hurt my game. I think it benefited me. I'd stand by kind of becoming that at that last round because it locked me in for merge. It removed me as a target from my tribe's like heads. Like they had no reason to consider voting me out rather than if I was vulnerable, maybe the discussion comes up of, oh, should we take Ben out before the merge hits? So I don't think so. No, I think it helped me.
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah, with everything, I mean, you've been such a massive character on this season. I would argue one of the biggest seasons or one of the biggest characters on this season, you know, so I thank you so much for playing and applying. I don't even remember how you said you found Prometheus. But yeah, I mean, with your whole, you know, perception, or everyone's perception of you, I should say, did you have any other thoughts about it? Any final thoughts before you conclude?
I don't think so. I'll say I found it. I'm in a bunch of random org servers that I check variously. So if anybody out there spots me, do not contact me. I don't want to hear. No, I'm kidding. But I had seen your season 1 application in one of the advertisement channels, and I went, oh, that's like really interesting. Like a real cash prize, a fully edited web series. Like it really intrigued me, and it like actually stuck with me to the point where when I saw season 2, I went, oh, season 1 actually happened. Because you hear a lot in these online games like, oh, we're going to make episodes after this season. And it never happens. So when I saw the season 2 advertisement, I was like, oh, it did actually happen. And it went well enough that we're getting another season. I had been in a bit of a hiatus for a bit. It was just one weekend. It was a pretty easy commitment for me. There was money involved, which I'm a broke college kid. I need money. I jumped at it. As for like other people's perceptions of me, I think they were probably generally accurate. I like to consider myself in these games, kind of a smart player who leverages his positions to make others like carry me forward. And that doesn't always go successfully. You know, it's very hit or miss as we know. But I think the one thing that people were wrong about me in this season is that a lot of my pitches, I think at that time that I was saying them were the correct moves. I think some of those people should have considered not voting me out. And, you know, maybe I approached it in a way that prevented them from really doing anything to help that. But I do think a lot of my points being made were true. I think, gosh, I can't say too much. I think that like at that point, there were a lot of players left in the game who hadn't done anything, who had coasted through the pre-merge and then arrived at the pre-merge and had made one safe vote choice and were on the precipice of making a second safe vote choice. And I think at that point, that's 7 in a row rounds where you've done nothing. I think my pleads for people to try and do something were not wrong. I think they probably I think if I was one of those people, I would have been thinking, well, geez, like, should I consider this? So the one perception of me, I would say people weren't super accurate in is they didn't give me enough credit. They saw me as a big, messy person and then counted out a lot of what I was pitching. But I think a lot of what I pitched was really valid and actually in good game theory and good strategy for them.
Interesting. All right. Well, I guess on that note, thank you everyone for tuning in. And obviously, thank you, Ben, for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for our next episode. Bye.